The story begins not with a scream, but with a sigh. It opens on a vast, unspooling ribbon of highway, bleached pale by a relentless sun, or rendered a slick, black void by the rain, its center line a hypnotic, rhythmic pulse in the headlights. Inside a car, the world is reduced to the hum of the engine, the whisper of the tires on asphalt, and the low murmur of the radio fighting a losing battle against the static of distance. This is the domain of the protagonist, a woman named Sarah or Lisa, or any name that feels comfortingly ordinary. She is not an action hero. She is every woman. She is a mother returning from visiting her own parents, a student driving back to campus after a holiday, a saleswoman heading to the next client. Her weariness is a tangible thing, a heavy cloak settled on her shoulders, making her eyes gritty and her reflexes just a fraction slower. The journey has stretched on for hours, transforming the familiar act of driving into a monotonous autopilot trance. The towns have become names on green signs, flashing by and forgotten. The world outside her windows is no longer a landscape, but a mere concept of distance yet to be conquered. It is in this state of vulnerable fatigue, in this cocoon of isolation moving at 70 miles per hour, that the first seed of the story is planted. The decision is a simple one, born of human necessity over narrative foresight. She needs to rest, to use the bathroom, to simply stop for a moment. She signals, the click-clack of the turn indicator suddenly loud in the quiet cabin, and guides the car toward the upcoming exit, its promise of respite, a small welcome relief. The turn from the exit ramp leads not to a bustling oasis of light and life, but into a deeper pool of isolation. The rest stop reveals itself not as a refuge, but as a forgotten pocket of the world, a stage set for a play that has long since closed. The lighting is a sickly sodium orange that pushes back against the darkness without ever truly defeating it, casting long, distorted shadows that seem to move just at the edge of vision. The pavement is cracked and weedy, and the litter caught in the chain-link fence trembles in the wind, the only movement in the stagnant air. Her headlights sweep across the parking lot, illuminating an emptiness that feels deliberate. There might be one or two other vehicles, a dented pickup truck parked crookedly at the far end of the lot, or a windowless van sitting ominously close to the tree line. Their presence isn't comforting, it's anomalous. Why are they here? Who sits in a darkened vehicle at a rest stop in the middle of nowhere? She chooses a spot that feels safe, usually under a light and closer to the brick building that houses the restrooms. The crunch of her tires on the gravel is absurdly loud, an announcement of her arrival in the profound quiet. She kills the engine, and the sudden silence is a physical presence, heavy and listening. It's in this silence that the first true prickle of unease travels down her spine. It's a primal signal, a quiet alarm bell that her modern rational mind quickly tries to dismiss. You're just tired, the mind insists. It's just a quiet night. She'll dismiss the feeling, attribute it to an overactive imagination fueled by long hours and bad coffee. But the atmosphere has shifted. The normalcy of the journey is gone, replaced by a palpable sense of vulnerability. This scene masterfully transforms a mundane location into a territory of potential threat, establishing that here, in this liminal space between destinations, the ordinary rules of safety no longer seem to apply. She is well and truly alone. The decision is made. She must get out of the car. The need that brought her here, be it the restroom, a drink from a vending machine, or simply to shake the stiffness from her legs, now feels like a perilous undertaking. The door opens with a click that echoes in the vast, quiet space. a sound that seems to announce her vulnerability to the entire night. The air outside is cooler, carrying the scent of damp asphalt and distant pine, but it does nothing to refresh her. Instead, every sense feels heightened, tuned to a frequency of pure instinct. She walks quickly, her footsteps a rapid tap-tap-tap that seems both too loud and insufficient against the pressing silence. Her keys are clutched like a weapon between her fingers, a pathetic modern-day talisman against the unknown. It is then that she sees him, or perhaps simply feels his presence first. A man. He is not doing anything overtly threatening. He might be leaning against the side of the beat-up truck, seeming to fiddle with his phone, or he is simply sitting in the driver's seat of the van, his face a pale, unreadable oval in the darkness, watching the building, watching the lot. Their eyes meet. It is not a glance, but a lock, a fraction of a second too long. In that sliver of time, a silent, terrifying transaction occurs. She sees not a person, but a potentiality, a cold assessment, a predator's patient stillness. He sees a target, alone, isolated, afraid. There is no smile, no nod of acknowledgement. Just that flat, unnerving stare that seems to strip away all pretense of civilization. A cold wave of pure, undiluted dread washes over her. This is no longer a vague unease. It is a biological imperative, a shrieking alarm in the most ancient part of her brain. Her breath catches. Her heart hammers against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat screaming run. She abandons her original task, veering sharply back toward her car. Every shadow now seems to hold a threat. Every rustle of wind sounds like a footstep. The short distance back to her vehicle feels like a marathon, her back prickling with the expectation of a hand grabbing her shoulder at any moment. This scene is the critical turning point where the atmosphere of dread crystallizes into a tangible, personal fear. The monster has a face, and the flight response has been triggered, setting the stage for the desperate escape to come. Her hand, trembling slightly, fumbles with the key fob, the simple act of pressing the unlock button suddenly a complex and vital task. The car's responding chirp and flash of lights are a blessed, normal sound, a tiny anchor to the world of reason. She yanks the door open, slides into the familiar driver's seat, and with a slam that seals her in, the world outside is momentarily muted. Her first frantic action is to hit the door locks. The solid, metallic thunk-thunk is the most beautiful sound she has ever heard, a definitive barrier between her and the unsettling stillness of the rest stop. The key finds the ignition. The engine roars to life, and she doesn't even bother with her seatbelt. She throws the car into reverse, her head whipping around to check the rear view, her eyes wide and searching the shadows behind her for any sign of movement. Gravel sprays from her tires as she accelerates backward, then she cranks the wheel and slams the gear into drive. The car lurches forward, swinging out of the parking spot and onto the access lane that leads back to the highway. As she accelerates toward the on-ramp, her eyes are glued to the rearview mirror. The rest stop shrinks, its sickly orange lights becoming a dim, insignificant smudge in the vast darkness. She watches, waiting for the headlights of another vehicle to flare to life and follow. But the parking lot remains dark and still. No one is coming. A massive, shuddering wave of relief crashes over her. The tightness in her chest begins to loosen. She lets out a breath she didn't realize she was holding, a shaky half-laugh escaping her lips. You see? Her rational mind insists, now regaining control. You were just being silly, spooked yourself. It was just a guy sitting in his car. You overreacted. The adrenaline begins to recede, leaving a faint embarrassment in its wake. She merges onto the highway, the steady rhythm of the road once again taking over. She might even turn up the radio, the music now a welcome comfort instead of a distraction. This scene is the story's brilliant manipulation, a masterful feint that offers a false resolution. It allows both her and the audience to exhale, to believe the danger was imagined and is now receding into the distance behind them. This moment of profound relief is absolutely essential, for it makes the horror of what comes next not just shocking, but utterly devastating. For a few precious minutes, the world makes sense again. The steady hum of the engine, the reassuring glow of the dashboard lights, the solid yellow line dividing the road ahead, it all conspires to rebuild the illusion of safety. She is back in her element, moving, putting concrete distance between herself and that fleeting moment of fear. She might even chastise herself a little, a smile touching her lips at how her own imagination managed to get the better of her. It starts as a pinprick of light in the rearview mirror, far down the dark ribbon of highway behind her. At first, it's just part of the landscape, no more notable than a star in the sky. But this star is growing, rapidly. Her eyes, now sensitive to every flicker of movement, flick back to the mirror. The light has split into two distinct headlights, and they are closing the distance with an alarming, aggressive speed. A cold knot begins to form in her stomach, the first trickle of the old dread returning. The vehicle doesn't slow down as it approaches. Instead, it rides her bumper, its high beams flooding her car with a blinding, oppressive light that fills the interior and drowns out her own dashboard glow. The world outside her windows vanishes, shrunk down to the blinding glare in her mirrors. She can feel the presence of the massive vehicle behind her, a hulking shadow pushing her forward. Then the flashing begins. Not the alternating flash of emergency lights, but a frantic, staccato bursting of its high beams, on, off, a violent and silent demand for attention. Her heart, which had just settled, now jackhammers against her ribs. The relief she felt moments before curdles into a pure electric terror. This is no coincidence. This is no impatient traveler. This is a predator, and it has found her. Her hands grip the steering wheel, her knuckles white. She instinctively presses down on the accelerator, her car surging forward, but the vehicle behind her matches her speed effortlessly, staying glued to her bumper, its lights still flashing their insane message. The comfortable hum of the engine is now a high-pitched whine of panic. The open road ahead is no longer an escape route, but a terrifyingly empty arena for a chase she never agreed to. The nightmare she thought she had left behind in the rest stop parking lot hasn't been escaped. It has simply taken on a new, more aggressive, and terrifyingly mobile form. The chase becomes a blur of pure animalistic instinct. The road is no longer asphalt, but a tunnel of darkness. Her world reduced to the frantic slap of the windshield wipers, the scream of her own engine, and the two blinding eyes of the monster that hunts her in the mirror. Her every thought is consumed by a single driving need. Find light, find people, find safety. She swerves onto an exit ramp she doesn't know, takes turns at speeds that make the tires shriek in protest, her eyes scanning the sleeping world for any sign of refuge. It might be the red and blue swirl of a police cruiser's lights parked outside a dim all-night diner. It might be the blinding white fluorescence of a 24-hour gas station, its windows a promise of witnesses and civilization. She wrenches the wheel, her car lurching across the pavement, and she doesn't so much park as abandon her vehicle, screeching to a halt just feet from the door. The pursuing vehicle skids to a stop right behind her, blocking her in. There is no more running. This is the end of the line. Terror has stolen her voice, but a primal scream forces its way out as she throws open her car door, stumbling into the light. She is hysterical, pointing a shaking finger at the truck, at the man who is now throwing his own door open. She is screaming fragments of sentences. He's been chasing me. Help me, please. He's trying to kill me. She expects him to charge, to produce a weapon, to finally enact the violence she has been fleeing. She braces for the attack, her body coiled tight with a decade's worth of fear compressed into these few seconds. This is the climax of her terror, the moment she has been racing toward, the final desperate confrontation she believed would mean her life or her death. She is ready to fight, to scream, to die right there on the oil-stained concrete under the humming lights, because the running is finally, blessedly, over. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next one. Bye for now.